Caleb, the miraculous warrior who conquered Hebron's giants through faith and divine blessing, in the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, Caleb, son of Jephunneh, stood upon the precipice of the promised land, gazing into the rugged hills of Hebron, a land steeped in memories of ancient promises. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the valley, reminding him of the hopes whispered through generations. For 40 long years, he had wandered through the wilderness alongside the congregation of Israel, his heart bearing the weight of the covenant spoken by Moses that the land of Canaan would be theirs, if only they would trust in the Lord. As the Israelite camp buzzed with preparations for conquest, Caleb's heart swelled with fervent longing. Now aged 85, he approached Joshua, the appointed leader. His voice resonated, steady yet impassioned. "Give me this hill country of which the Lord spoke on that day," he proclaimed with resolute faith. Memories of the giants of Anak swirled in his mind, their towering shadows haunting visions of defeat that had clouded the hearts of the faithless. Caleb recalled the day they spied the land, where he and Joshua stood alone in their testimony of hope amidst the rising tide of fear. "The land is exceedingly good," Caleb had declared, but the 10 spies echoed fear of the giants, sowing distrust among the people. Yet, he remembered the Lord's mighty presence, a divine promise that dwarfed any earthly threat. His faith burned bright, a fire ignited by the memory of God's faithfulness. The hills of Hebron awaited his claim, rich in soil and the bounty of promise. They stood as a testament to Yahweh's fidelity, and Caleb knew that victory lay not in numbers or sheer strength, but in unwavering trust in the Lord. While the younger warriors donned their armor, determined to wield swords against earthly foes, Caleb strapped on the armor of faith, prepared to stand against the giants that loomed on the horizon. That he surveyed the mountains towering before him, memories flooding back fearful whispers in the camp, murmurs of despair, yet amidst the turmoil, the Spirit of the Lord spoke courage into his heart. Caleb felt invigorated, vitality coursing through his veins, knowing that God's strength transcended age. He was not a relic of the past, he was a beacon of faith, steadfast and unyielding. The shadows of the giants danced against the glowing sun, reminders of deep-seated fears. The air was thick with tension as Caleb felt the weight of the community's collective burden. Would his claim usher in triumph, or lead them to soul-crushing defeat? With each step forward, doubt battled faith, yet Caleb pressed on, trusting God for what lay ahead. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In that moment, standing before the hills of Hebron, Caleb's spirit pulsed with divine energy, yet the question loomed: could faith truly move mountains, even giants? In a world rife with doubt, Caleb embodied a warrior, resolute, fearless, and wholly reliant on the one who promised to fight with him. Would Yahweh fulfill his covenant, or would the specter of despair cloud the brightness of Caleb's inheritance? As he prepared to confront the heights of uncertainty, he cast his gaze toward the horizon where the promise of God hovered like the dawn, waiting to break forth in glory. And it came to pass, as Caleb stood firm upon that sacred ground, that he cried out to the Lord, "O God of Israel, you who called me to this destiny, I beseech you to grant me the strength to fulfill your promise." The heavens above seemed to vibrate with his fervent plea, and the earth resonated beneath his feet with a divine response. Joshua clasped Caleb's arm, recognizing the fire in his elder's eyes, and spoke, "Gird yourself, Caleb. The warriors shall move forward, but your faith will lead us." With a heart full of gratitude, Caleb nodded, bolstered by the unwavering spirit of his brother. In arms. As the sun rose higher, casting light upon the hills of Hebron, Caleb gathered the Israelite men around him. "Men of Israel," he beckoned, his voice rolling like thunder. "Let us remember the victories of our past. The walls of Jericho fell against the shout of faith. The waters of the Jordan parted as we stepped forth in trust. Shall we falter now? For behold, the giants await us, but our God is greater still. The hearts of the warriors quickened, ignited by the truth of his words, and thus, they set forth, the forces of Israel moving with purpose and valor toward the hills that belonged to Caleb. The air was electric with anticipation, and the sound of their march echoed through the valleys. Caleb felt the presence of the Lord as he led the charge of strength beyond physicality, a courage born of divine assurance. When they arrived at the foot of the mountains, the sight of the Anakim manifested before them, fierce and fearsome. Their eyes glinted with malice, the very embodiment of the fears that once gripped Israel. They towered over the army, casting shadows long and dark upon the ground. Yet Caleb stood, unyielding as a rock, and declared, "This day, we claim what our God has given. For he has said, I will not leave you nor forsake you." With swords drawn and shields raised, the men of Israel advanced, their battle cries ringing out like the sound of a mighty storm. And Caleb, heart steady with the faith of 40 years wandering, led the charge, confronting the giants, calling upon the name of the Lord. For the battle belongs to the Lord. He proclaimed, striking out against the enemy who had long held dominion over the land that as they fought, the earth trembled beneath them, both in the physical clash and in the spiritual warfare that unfolded. Caleb's heart raced as he swung his sword, each strike a declaration of faith. The giants fell before their advance, the ground soaked with the great struggle of hope against despair. Through the dust and tumult, in the midst of the fierce battle, Caleb glimpsed a vision, a multitude of souls to come, generations that would uphold the covenant, children who would know the God of Israel. His faith transcended that moment, reaching into the future of his people, but even amid the triumph, a doubt lingered in his heart, for he had seen much in his years. What lay ahead for Israel after this victory? How would they respond to the trials that were yet to come? Would they remember the faith of their fathers, or would the shadows of disbelief emerge once more? Then, as he fought valiantly, a whisper filled the air. Caleb, the land is thine, but the journey is not yet done. More giants await, but do not fear, my hand is upon you. The promise unfolds. In that moment, wisdom dawned in his spirit. The battle was only part of the promise, and God's love and purpose extended far beyond the immediate. As Caleb raised his sword high, he thought of future generations who would cling to the Lord's unfailing covenant. And so, they pressed on into the depths of Hebron, the land pulsing with divine promise where giants still roamed, yet the faith of the righteous would prevail. Would God reveal an even greater plan through the trials to come? The dawn of understanding whispered on the horizon, beckoning Caleb to trust ever deeper in the unfolding tapestry of his sovereignty. And it came to pass, as the dust of battle settled, that Caleb stood upon a rise, surveying the scene before him with a heart heavy yet hopeful. The cries of victory echoed like heavenly music, but the weight of his thoughts lingered on the promise not only for himself but for all of Israel. Behold, he cried, raising his hands toward the heavens, the Lord has delivered our enemies into our hands. Let us gather our wounded and rejoice, for our God is faithful. The warriors gathered around him, the air thick with sweat and the sharp tang of iron, and as they fell to their knees in gratitude, Joshua stepped forward, his face illuminated with joy. Truly, the hand of God is with us. Let us hasten to claim the land that has been sworn to our forefathers. With hope rekindled in their hearts, the men of Israel proceeded to organize a celebration of their triumph, giving thanks for the strength bestowed upon them. They built an altar of unhewn stones, as the Lord had commanded, and offered burnt sacrifices, declaring in one voice, "The Lord is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." But Caleb, despite the elation that surrounded him, felt a stirring in his spirit, a reminder of the divine whisper that had echoed in his heart during the clash. "This is not the end," he murmured softly to himself, "for the journey is not yet complete." As days passed, the echoes of victory morphed into the sounds of discontent. Caleb observed how the hearts of some began to shift, the triumph overshadowed by the fear of more giants yet to face and lands yet to conquer. He called together the elders, his voice steady with the wisdom of ages. "Brothers, let us not become complacent. For the Lord is still calling us to possess the land." "Indeed," spoke one elder, his face lined with concern, "what if the Anakim regroup? What if they launch a resurgence against us?" Yet Caleb, ever resolute, replied, "Did not the Lord say to us to take heart? Did he not promise us victory over our foes? Our strength lies not in our might, but in our faith." With renewed fervor, the leaders resolved to advance deeper into the land, encouraged by Caleb's steadfastness. They distributed portions of the inheritance, assigning lands corresponding to the tribes, urging them to prepare for further battles. As they ascended the hills, Caleb's heart leaped with the Spirit of the Lord. "This land is ours," he proclaimed, sensing the divine presence guiding their steps. But shadows of doubt loomed as the remnants of fear whispered amongst the ranks. Would their faith hold firm when the moment of truth arrived? And so they pressed on, facing challenges that tested their resolve. They encountered fortified cities and vast armies, the giants emerging not only from flesh but from the specter of fear that clawed at their hearts. Yet through each trial, Caleb held fast to the vision he had received, the image of generations raised in faith. Then one fateful day, as Caleb approached the heart of the land, he halted at the threshold of a towering fortification, its walls glimmering like stone giants in the midday sun. In that moment, he realized that each stronghold was not merely a physical barrier, but a test of spiritual barriers, challenging their trust in the Lord's promises. The voice of the Lord came once more, echoing through the tumult of his soul, "Fear not, Caleb, for with every giant you face, my promise stands firm. A kingdom is formed through trials, and through faith, it will endure." Caleb's spirit ignited, for in the growing tension of the impending struggle, he understood that the true promise would come forth not just in victory over foes, but in the unwavering faith and obedience of a nation. How God's sovereign plan would unfold through fiery trials remained veiled, yet Caleb knew one thing, that the journey of faith was the essence of divine victory. Would their trust prevail in the face of darkness, guiding them toward a future illuminated by the light of God's covenant? The answer awaited them beyond the horizon, just as Caleb's heart swelled with a holy anticipation of what God had yet to reveal. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting golden rays upon the land, Caleb gathered the leaders of the tribes under the wide expanse of the starry sky, the air thick with anticipation. "Brethren," he began, his voice steady and confident, "the Lord has promised us cities we have not built and vineyards we have not planted. Let us rise and confront the enemies that dwell in these fortified cities." The men looked around, some faces gleaming with hope while others were shrouded in fear, grasping tightly to their doubts. A young warrior named Othniel stepped forward, his heart alight with courage. "We have seen what our God can do. He has already delivered us from the hand of the Amorites, surely he will not forsake us now." "Indeed," Caleb affirmed, nodding at the young man's passion. "For the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear but of power, love, and a sound mind." The assembly murmured in response, hearts beginning to stir as hope intertwined with resolve. "If we hold firmly to our faith, we shall see miracles unfold," Caleb continued. "Let us not forget what the Lord spoke to Joshua, 'Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you.'" Joshua 1 verse 3, Today we step forth to claim our inheritance. With renewed vigor, they marched toward the city of Hebron, whose walls reached high into the heavens, as if challenging their determination. As they drew near, the sound of laughter and revelry echoed from within, mocking their cause. The giants who resided there stood tall and fierce, their shadows looming like specters of fear over the hearts of Israel's soldiers. Caleb, undeterred by their numbers, paused and raised his staff, calling upon the mercy of the Lord. "Mighty God," he prayed aloud, "you who are greater than all, grant us strength to face these adversaries. May we remember how David, your servant, declared, 'The battle is the Lord's,' 1 Samuel 17 verse 47. We enter not in our own might, but in your name." As dawn broke, casting an otherworldly light upon the battlefield, the hearts of the men quickened. "Caleb." A voice rose from the ranks, and it was Joshua. "The fear among our people has grown, they wish to retreat. What shall we do?" With steadfast resolve, Caleb's eyes burned with an unwavering faith. "We do not retreat. Let us remember the covenant our God forged with our forefathers. He is a promise keeper. The moment stood still, with the winds whispering of divine destiny, the men clenching their swords tighter. "Now is the time," Caleb urged. "Lift your eyes. The Lord has placed his hand upon us." And so they advanced, breath held in collective anticipation. The walls of Hebron seemed to tremble under the weight of their challenge. As they approached, Caleb, leading the charge, shouted, "The Lord is our battle standard." With those words, the ground trembled, and a fierce rumble echoed through the air, a celestial resonance of divine support. As they charged forward, the skies darkened, and the sound of thunder rolled like the footsteps of titans. Suddenly, a brilliant light broke forth from the heavens, illuminating their path. Caleb felt the spirit of the God of hosts empower his very being. Each step felt as if they tread upon holy ground, for the very presence of God enfolded them. "O Lord, it is not by our prowess, but by your sovereign hand," he breathed, sensing that history was being rewritten, and thus, prepared for the night, the warriors felt an unusual peace descend upon them, the peace that comes from divine assurance. Yet in their hearts, a tumult brewed, echoing questions of what would become of their faith, as the promise of God loomed greater than the giants that stood ahead. How would the Lord manifest his faithfulness among them in the days to come? The answer stirred at the edges of their understanding, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Thus, the dawn awaited, promising a renewal of faith and revelation of God's sovereign plan, which would transform not only the lives of the tribes of Israel but resonate through generations to come. In the early light of dawn, the warriors found themselves before the towering walls of Hebron, their hearts a medley of fervor and trepidation. The giants, fierce and resolute, peered down from the battlements, disdain etched upon their faces. Yet, with each heartbeat, Caleb's confidence surged, for he felt the very presence of the Almighty enveloping them. "Stand firm," Caleb bellowed, drawing the attention of his brethren. "Today, we are not merely soldiers of flesh, but instruments of the living God. The Lord has declared that our inheritance awaits us, and he shall deliver these giants into our hands. Let us not falter, for he is with us." As the sun ascended, casting rays of hope upon the land, Joshua, ever the loyal confidant, stepped beside Caleb. "Shall we sound the trumpets, that all may hear of our advance upon the enemy?" he proposed, his voice steady. Caleb nodded, knowing the power of reverberating sound that echoed the victory promised in the heavens. They gathered their trumpeters and, as one, sent forth a resounding blast that rolled across the valley like the thunder of a storm. The sound shook the very core of Hebron, and the giants within trembled, their revelry stifled by the approach of an impending doom they could neither perceive nor resist. Now, Caleb turned to his men, "Remember your covenant with the Lord. For it is written, if God be for us, who can be against us?" Romans 8 verse 31. This day, let us advance and claim what is rightfully ours. With a mighty roar, they charged the gates. But as they neared, the giants unleashed arrows and stones upon them, pelting their advance with merciless fury. Caleb bore the brunt of fear itself, but faith ignited a flame deep within him. "Fear not. The Lord our God is a shield about us," he proclaimed, raising his staff high, the emblem of divine promise, and in that moment, the skies responded to their fervent cries. Dark clouds swirled, mirroring the tension building on the battlefield. A lightning bolt struck the ground, illuminating the path before them. The soldiers surged with renewed vigor, their eyes wide with a holy fervor, emboldened by the very breath of God moving amongst them. As they pressed forward, the harrowing cries of the giants reached a feverish pitch, but Caleb was undeterred. "It is written, ye shall not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God is the one fighting for you." Deuteronomy 3 verse 22. Charge forth. The Lord fights with us. With swords raised and shouts ringing in the air, they crashed against the walls of Hebron. The earth trembled beneath them as they claimed their ground. Othniel, filled with valor, glimpsed his moment of glory, scaling the ramparts like a hawk diving toward its prey. He leapt, and the story of David and Goliath flickered in their hearts, propelling them onward to make their mark. The sound of clashing swords and cries of triumph filled the air, mingling with the crackle of divine thunder above. Walls that seemed insurmountable began to crack under the weight of Israel's faith, as if heaven itself conspired to bring about victory, yet, deep within even the most ardent hearts, doubt lingered. How can we conquer what is fortified? They whispered amongst themselves as the battle raged on. Caleb, catching wind of their perilous thoughts, raised his staff once more. Lift your eyes. For our God is a sun and shield. He will give grace and glory, no good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. Psalm 84 verse 11. With renewed purpose, they pushed forth, and as the cracks widened, a shout rang through their ranks, a cry of victory yet to be realized under the divine orchestration unseen. As evening approached, the battle continued. One neither could predict would conclude that day. But the promise of deliverance lingered in the hearts of Israel. For his ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts higher than our thoughts. Isaiah 55 verse 9. Yet unbeknownst to them, an even greater revelation was being woven into the fabric of their struggle, one that would transcend the walls of Hebron and ignite a flame of hope for generations to come. For the whisper of the divine echoed, a great victory is at hand, and a legacy you have yet to perceive awaits. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting deep shadows across the battlefield, the Israelites pressed into the heart of Hebron, each clash of steel against steel resonating with divine promise. Caleb, filled with the Spirit of the Lord, knew that in this grand struggle set before them, victory was not merely a possibility, it was a certainty birthed from their obedience to God. In the chaos of the fray, Caleb's voice rose above the din, remember the covenant we share. The Lord has spoken to us. He will not abandon his people. His words pierced through the clamor of warfare, igniting the hearts of those around him, a flame of faith spreading among the soldiers. Othniel, now uphill amidst the combat, scrutinized the placement of the giants, and a thought sprang forth, could it be that their strength lies not in stone and steel, but in fear? Perhaps, this day, we confront not just giants, but the very fear that grips us. He turned, rallying the men alongside him, brave warriors, fight not merely against flesh, but against the very spirit that seeks to bind us. Our God is with us. Encouraged, they pressed their assault, but the giants, cudgeling mightily, sought to defend their treacherous stronghold. As arrows flew like rain and stones cascaded down, it seemed at once a formidable challenge, yet the hearts of God's people burned bright. For lo! The stone walls that seemed impervious cracked with each prayer, and with faith unfurling as a banner, they surged together. Look! One soldier cried, pointing to the heavens. Clouds roiled and a tempest brewed above, as if creation itself was responding to the resolve of its faithful. The roar of thunder shook the very ground. The Lord is on our side, let us not grow weary. As the sun's fading light illuminated the battlefield in hues of crimson and gold, Caleb ascended a stone rise. Behold the might of the Lord! It is written, ye shall not fear, for the Lord your God will fight for you. Deuteronomy 20 verse 4. Shall we not take heart and follow his command? With a unified shout, they surged forward, wielding their swords with a newfound strength. The giants, once lofty and proud, faltered as belief coursed through the ranks of Israel like a river of fire. Then, in that moment, a great earth-shattering cry arose from the halls of Hebron, the sound of a fortress crumbling, not merely by the hands of men, but by the hand of God. The walls began to collapse before them, revealing the richness of the land that awaited their claim. Suddenly, among the chaos, a glimmer of light shone from the fallen stone, drawing Caleb's gaze. He rushed toward it, heart pounding. There, inscribed upon a fragment of rock, lay the words of promise, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Trembling, he understood this victory was not just for their moment, but for all generations to follow. As Hebron quaked beneath their feet, the heart of Israel rejoiced. The giants, once invincible, lay broken before them, a testament of God's unwavering might. And there, amidst the dimming day, a revelation dawned, echoing through the air. This victory births not only a land but a legacy, for the whispers of the future proclaim, a chosen people shall rise, and their tales shall bless those who come after them. And as victory echoed through the valleys, the presence of the divine remained. hinting at the greater purpose, yet unfurled a promise not solely for now, but one that would forever alter the course of his chosen. For soon, the sweep of his plan would enfold them all, beckoning the next chapter of faith in their unfolding saga. As dawn broke upon the horizon, the glow cast a serene light over the ruins of Hebron, where just hours before the air was thick with the sounds of battle. In the stillness that followed, Caleb stood amidst the remnants of victory, his heart swelling with gratitude and awe. The ground bore witness to their struggle, yet the glory of God enveloped them, and the atmosphere was charged with expectancy of what was to come. Then, a stirring in the hearts of the people arose, for they had witnessed the might of the Lord at work, and their faith was ignited anew. Caleb called upon Othniel, his brother-in-arms, and the leaders of the tribes, gathering them in the cool embrace of morning. "Friends," he declared with a voice that rang true, "let us recount the wonders he has performed. Our God, who promised us this land, has delivered with a mighty hand." With eyes full of fervor, the leaders assembled, each recalling the moment when the walls fell and the spirit of fear was vanquished. Armed with faith, their convictions only grew. Othniel stepped forth, saying, "The giants we faced are not simply of flesh and blood, they are the very doubts and fears that reside within us. The Lord has silenced them, let us not forget his victory." As they shared their stories of valor and divine intervention, Caleb raised his hands to heaven, exclaiming, "Even now, let us consecrate this moment before the Lord. For it is by his grace we have triumphed. Come forth, bring your offerings of thankfulness." The people responded with a fervent outpouring of praise, as they laid forth the first fruits of the land, a symbol of the bounty that was to come. In the midst of this gathering, a shadow of solemnity passed as Caleb pondered the implications of their victory. "But what lies ahead, dear brothers?" he asked, eyes piercing into the hearts around him. "For while we have conquered Hebron, there remain many lands and peoples yet untamed. Will we step forward in faith or fall back into apprehension? For it is written, 'Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding,' Proverbs 3 verse 5. The winds shifted as a messenger approached, panting and weary. "O Caleb, leader of Israel," he said, urgency lacing his words, "news carries that we are to contend with the Amorites and the Jebusites who dwell in the valleys beyond. They know not the power of our God." The assembly held their breath, fear mingling with the remnants of their victory. Caleb's heart sank for but a fleeting moment, yet within him, the fire of the Lord reignited. "Be bold. For the same God who granted us this victory will lead us forward. He has not brought us this far to abandon us. The earth is the Lord's, and all therein, let us march onward, for his promises are unfailing." With renewed fervor, they answered, "We shall go as the Lord directs. Let us not assemble stones in fear but build an altar of faith." And so, they gathered strength and resolve. The dawn of a new mission lay before them, shrouded with the promise of further conquest and deeper dependence upon their covenant God, and there, in the hearts of the people, a holy whisper echoed a truth still to be revealed. "For I have called you to be a beacon to the nations, a light in the darkness." Even as you fight, remember, the battle belongs to the Lord. For he is weaving a tapestry of salvation across generations. Thus, with hearts aligned on the divine promise, they stepped forward, anticipating the unfolding of God's greater plan, and a question lingered: what further wonders awaited them on the path laid by his hand? The journey had just begun, and the pages of their story were poised for divine revelation. As the sun ascended higher, illuminating the lush valleys that beckoned to be claimed, Caleb gathered the assembled tribes upon the ancient hills. With eyes bright and hearts eager, the people listened intently as he shared words laden with the promise of the Almighty. "Brothers and sisters," Caleb began, his voice steady against the backdrop of nature's chorus, "the land ahead calls us to faith, yet the shadows of doubt loom near. Let us remember the words of Moses, who counseled us saying, 'Be strong and courageous, do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.' Joshua 1 verse 9. The people stirred with fervor as Caleb continued, "Every step forward shall echo with the glory of God, who has shown us his might over our enemies. As we march forth to face the Amorites and the Jebusites, let us equip ourselves not only with swords and shields, but with prayer and praise. With this rallying cry, they felt the hand of God upon them. They listed their offerings, resolved to establish a memorial of their victory in Hebron as a reminder of his faithfulness. Let us create a standard of remembrance. Othniel proclaimed, drawing the hearts of men and women closer together, bonded by a singular purpose. As the days unfolded, they prepared for battle, sharpening their swords and tending to their weapons, yet it was the spirit of their prayers that rang truest. Day after day, they called upon the Lord for guidance, strength, and victory. The air was thick with anticipation, and fear gradually morphed into resolve under the banner of hope. On an appointed day, Caleb ascended a high place with a few chosen men, beseeching the Lord in earnest. He knelt upon the earth, feeling its firmness beneath him, and cried, O Lord, great and mighty, lead us forth in your way. You have shown us your dear hand upon Hebron, let us not falter as we step into the unknown. Give us courage, let us see your salvation at work amidst the darkness. As he prayed, a deep stillness enveloped him, and with a sudden clarity, the presence of the Lord washed over his spirit. In that moment, he felt the promise echo within, I shall deliver them into your hands, for the battle belongs to me. Returning to the encampment, Caleb's eyes sparkled with assurance. He gathered the people, unveiling the divine message. The Lord has breathed courage into us. Fear not, for he has ordained our victory, let us move as one. The crowd erupted in shouts of hallelujah and amen. As they united their spirits in expectation, with the sun casting long shadows towards the valley depths, Caleb set forth with the chosen warriors, leading them to the battleground like a lion charging forth. Each stride taken was a declaration of faith, echoing the ancient words of Exodus, the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Exodus 14 verse 14. The moment approached, hearts racing with a mixture of fervor and holy anticipation. The ground trembled beneath their feet as they neared their adversaries, who stood fortified among their stone walls, unaware of the impending defeat that awaited them. As evening fell, Caleb lifted his arms towards the heavens, imploring the Lord once more. The winds began to stir, whispers of divine action threaded through the air. A flash of light pierced the dusk, momentarily blinding his enemies. In that revelatory moment, a question surged within Caleb's heart: what future wonders awaited them upon the horizon? For God's sovereignty was at work, crafting a destiny yet unfathomed, a tapestry of miracles woven through their obedience and faith. The true battle awaited as the pages of history turned with divine determination, leading them deeper into the heart of God's eternal purpose. As the stars began to shimmer in the velvet sky, a silence fell over the armies assembled in the valley. The air grew thick with expectancy, a palpable tension that bore witness to the weight of divine promise. Caleb, heart ablaze with the fire of faith, called upon his men to gather around him. Men of Israel, he proclaimed, voice steadied by the assurance of the Lord's presence, we stand on the precipice of our inheritance. The enemy before us is a formidable foe, but our God has declared victory. As they encircled him, a murmur of conviction spread through the ranks. Each soldier steeled himself, looking into the faces of his brethren, catching the resolve that mirrored his own. The weariness of the journey inspired them, for their hearts now glowed with hope. In that moment, Caleb added solemnly, remember the promise that the Lord spoke to us, every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon I have given to you, Joshua 1 verse 3. With a reverent gaze, Caleb knelt, embracing the dust of the ground, a symbol of humility before the Creator, who has endured their wanderings through vast wildernesses and trials. O Lord, mighty in battle, he cried, let your hand be visible upon us this day, cause our enemies to scatter before us, as the chaff before the wind. Suddenly, a voice broke through the stillness. A woman among them stepped forth, her presence commanding attention. It was Miriam, the sister of Moses. Caleb. She called, remember the song that echoed as we crossed the sea. We sang, the Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation, Exodus 15 verse 2. Let us sing once more, for praise has power to open the heavens. With her words, an old rhythm ignited a fire within the hearts of the men. They lifted their voices together, a chorus of worship that rang out against the cruel stone walls of the enemy's stronghold. Their praises pierced the night, for you will tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent, you shall trample underfoot. Psalm 91 verse 13. As they sang, the earth trembled, and from the heavens, a rumbling thunder echoed, as if the very forces of nature responded to their praise. The warriors could sense a shift in the atmosphere, fear dissipated like mist under the rising sun. All was primed for battle. Just beyond the walls, the Amorites trembled. Uncertain whispers crossed their ranks as they listened to the Jews' fervent cries. What force could incite men to worship before engaging in warfare? Fearful omens flooded their hearts as darkened skies loomed above. As the dawn broke, painting the horizon in hues of gold and crimson, Caleb rallied his men once more. Though they tower as giants before us, remember the God who parted the seas. We fight not with sword alone but with prayer as our shield. With swords raised and hearts emboldened, they moved forward, the clash of metal resounding like a divine symphony ushering in the fulfillment of his promises. The clash began, the ground shook as fearsome cries erupted from their lips, echoing Caleb's battle call, "The Lord is with us." Their enemies fell back, confusion reigning amidst the hurling stones and strident shouts. As the mighty hand of God moved amongst the warriors, a few saw a shadow of a figure in the midst of the tumult, a flicker of an angelic host, unseen yet undeniably present in the heart of the turmoil. A curiosity welled in Caleb. Could there be more to this battle than just victory? What decree from the courts of heaven awaited expression through their valor? With every breath he drew, he felt the weight of divine purpose lingering over them, drawing them closer to fulfillment yet beyond their sight. Amidst the shouting and the clash, the promise of greater things to come echoed in his spirit, a whisper that perhaps this battle was merely the first act in a grand design yet to unfold. For God had orchestrated their journeys through trials, setting the stage for his glory to shine forth in ways they had yet to know. And it came to pass in the fullness of time, as the sun rose in brilliant array, that Caleb stood upon the peak of what was once a stronghold of giants, feeling the breeze whip around him, carrying with it the aroma of victory mixed with the earthy scent of newly turned soil. The ground had crumbled beneath the might of their faith, and the once mighty walls of Hebron lay in ruin, a testament to God's promises fulfilled. Behold! Caleb shouted to the gathered Israelites, a fervor igniting deep within him. The Lord has delivered us. He has made our feet swift and our hearts strong. The giants have fallen, not by sword but through faith in the Almighty. As he raised his voice, the people erupted into cheers of gratitude, their once timid spirits buoyed by the reality of God's powerful hand at work. Yet Caleb, though exhilarated, felt the tension of the calling still unfolding. This victory is but a glimpse of the greater promise that awaits us. We are not just conquerors of Hebron, we are warriors tasked with faith. We will not rest until we possess the land spoken of by Yahweh, for he brings forth a legacy through our obedience. With hearts fueled by faith, the tribes began to establish their homes upon the land that was now theirs, a land rich with promise, flowing with milk and honey. Caleb, steadfast, reminded them, "Let us build altars unto the Lord, and declare his wondrous works, for it is he who fights for us." Together, they erected stones, not only marking their victories but also solidifying their covenant relationship with the Lord. In those sacred moments, narratives of faith emerged, stories passed down where the miraculous intertwined with everyday life. Generations took root, understanding that the struggles faced were sowings for a bountiful harvest of belief. Parents taught their children through remembrances of God's deliverance, and Caleb reveled in seeing the spark of faith ignited in young Othniel, who would rise to lead the next in battle. Yet amidst lights of hope and joy, curiosity lingered in Caleb's heart. What more might the Lord unfold? What enemies yet remain? His spirit yearned for understanding, seeking clarity from the one who revealed his plans through shadows and faith, and as he prayed, the whisper of the Lord came anew, a promise echoing in his soul. "Caleb, my servant, your journey does not end with conquest alone. For I have commanded you to establish a people who will reflect my glory throughout the ages. Take courage, for more battles await, but fear not, for I am with you always." Caleb rose restored, downcast eyes lifting toward the heavens. "Surely, O Sovereign One, your faithfulness abides forever. Let us not falter, but continue to expand our borders. Doubt fled as he grasped the vision of an unquenchable hope. The tapestry of God's unfolding purpose stretched before him. The conquest of Hebron was just the beginning. Days turned into weeks, and the seasons shifted as Caleb continued to inspire the people, reiterating that their trust belonged entirely to the Lord. Trials emerged with each new encounter, but with every giant faced, they grew unwavering, fortified by their legacy of faith. As the promise of their inheritance expanded, they advanced to neighboring lands, the armies pressing on, strengthened by each victory and emboldened by prayers that wove through the air thick with anticipation. Caleb's heart swelled as he witnessed the heart of Israel emerge courageous and steadfast, echoing the faith spoken of by their forefathers. At the end of his days, Caleb gathered the tribes one final time, the sun casting long shadows across the valley, painting the earth with hues of crimson and gold. "Beloved people," he began, his voice rich with the authority of his years. "We have prevailed through battles and through harrowing trials. Yet our journey is not merely one of conquest but of covenant. We stand as a beacon of his glory to the nations. Remember, our God is the one who remains true to his word. Do not be disheartened, for the giants that still stand before us are but stepping stones toward our sacred calling." With those last words of encouragement, Caleb blessed the people, invoking divine favor and stirring them to pursue the heart of God with fervor. They were no longer a nomadic people lost in the wilderness, they were a literal nation filled with promise, poised to fulfill the vision laid before them, a lineage woven with the cords of faith, resilience, and divine purpose. Now go forth, be bold in the Lord, claim what is rightfully yours. Be unyielding, remembering always that the battle belongs to the Lord. And as those words echoed in the hills of Hebron, thus the legacy of Caleb soared through the ages, his spirit enshrined in the hearts of generations to come, whispering of faith unfailing. And as we reflect on the miraculous journey of Caleb, we are reminded of the invitation that stands before us. Will we embrace our calling, step forward in faith, and join in this journey? Friends, now is the moment for you to delve deeper into God's Word. Be sure to subscribe immediately to not miss any of the powerful biblical stories that can transform your walk with God. If this story has touched your heart, please leave a like now to help spread God's word throughout the world through the algorithm. Comment below about how Caleb's journey has inspired your faith and transformed your understanding of God's promises. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. The harvest is plentiful, and your actions can bring souls to Christ. You need to stay connected to God's word.